Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to talk about how to fix a guide on a fishing rod. Last week we talked about how to fix a rod tip on a fishing guide. So if you're looking for a video for that, be sure to click the link above and watch that video. This week we're going to talk about how to fix the running and casting guides on the rod. I usually carry all this equipment with me whenever I am traveling to a tournament, so that if I would happen to break a running guide or a casting guide off of my rod, I'm able to take it back to the hotel and fix that while I'm on the road and have it ready to go for the next day for fishing. The tools you'll need in order to fix the running or casting guide are a lighter, a needle nose pliers, a razor, a thread and bobbin, sandpaper, and a replacement guide, some rod epoxy, and a rod dryer. Guide sizes will depend on the position that you break the guide off that rod. Depending on where that's at, it will either be a running or a casting guide. So a running guide will be closer to the tip, and those will be like a single-footed guide with smaller, typically you'll have a smaller ring size in them. And the casting guides will be a like a double-footed guide that will be closer to your reel and back towards the butt of that rod. And these guides will be typically a bigger ring size, and it'll kind of get smaller as you get closer to the tip. So the epoxy that I use is a two-part epoxy that comes pre-packed in these syringes, and I'll basically put that into a small bowl or a container, and I'll mix it up in order to get a constant consistency. The thread that I use is actually from like a fabric store. You can use a bunch of different types of thread. This is just one I found that works for me. It's the same stuff I use for tying jigs and stuff like that, but it just really, it won't break. Some of the fly tying stuff that you get, if you pull on it real tight, it'll end up breaking. So this is just something that I started using a few years ago, and it seems to work really good for me. The last thing that you'll need is a rod drying rack, and this is just a basic one that I got from Mud Hole, but basically we'll spread these out and put the butt of the rod in here, and it'll rotate once you plug it into the wall. And what that'll do is it'll prevent your glue from just going straight and making a big glob due to gravity. So by rotating it, your glue will stay evenly distributed on your thread and not put one big glob down towards the bottom. And like I said, you can get fancier ones of these. This is just the basic, cheapest one I could find. You can get one that does multiple rods at a time if you're making your own rods from scratch, or you can get one with a clutch so you can control the speed that it rotates and things like that. But that one works great for me. I leave it in the box all the time and just take it with me in my truck. And if I need to, I can just pop it out, plug it into the wall, and I'm ready to go fix that rod. And if you're looking for the exact stuff that I use, I'll put a link of everything in the video description below. So take a look at that, and there's a few links that you can click on down there. Now that we have all of our tools, it's time to get started. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna place our rod on the rod drying rack, but without having the rod drying rack rotating. We're going to put that on there with the rod guides facing upwards. And what that's gonna do is allow us a place to work on the rod and remove that rod guide that we need to get off there. To remove the old guide, you'll wanna use the lighter and heat up the old glue a little bit to make it soft. When it's soft, I like to use the razor and make a small cut and just keep kind of peeling it off of that old glue. Get all that glue off, all the threads off, and we're gonna get a clean surface for our new guide. After you got most of the glue off, I like to take the sandpaper. Sandpaper will be used to just basically another method to ensure that we get all that glue off and all the threads off. And it's also going to rough up the surface a little bit, and it's going to allow us to get those threads to the new thread and the new glue to really hold on to that guide. Another thing I'll do is I'll put some electrical tape on the upper and bottom limits of where that guide is going to sit. And what that's going to do is it'll allow me to not make such a mess with my glue or my threads, and kind of keep them in there. And then eventually I'll take this electrical tape off at the end. So I'll mix the 2 epoxies in this tray, and I'll do half and half of each part, and make sure you stir it completely till it's a complete consistency between the 2. I'll take a little dab of it and I'll put it on the foot of my rod guide in order to kind of hold that into place on the rod. And now I'm ready to take my thread and wrap that rod guide onto the rod. So what I'll do is I'll kind of start with an X there, and then I'll start wrapping over that excess. And what that does is that'll hold that kind of tight. And then after that, and just keep that on the edge of the rod guide. And then I'll kind of work my way back up the guide. And I'll just continuously take my finger here to kind of make this nice and neat. So I got it to the edge of my electric tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep working my way up. Once I get to the point where I'm at the base of that guide, what I'll do is I'll take a little piece of thread that I cut earlier, and I'll make like a loop in there. And I'll lay it here on that guide. And what you're going to do is you're basically just going to wrap around that a few times, 3 or 4 times. And I'll actually go on the top side of that guide also, just to make it extra snug. Then I'm going to cut my thread that I got, and I'm going to put it through that hole. And I'm going to pull this white thing out, and it's going to make me a knot right there. So now you got yourself, you can kind of readjust these a little bit more, but now you got yourself a perfectly good guide with all the threads you need on it. And now we just got to apply the glue. But first we're going to kind of tidy up this tag end, being careful not to cut any of your other stuff. And same with the bottom tag end. And now we're going to take the glue that we made earlier, and we're going to just kind of lather that all around where we have threads. Try not to get it in the rod guide, because you don't want it to harden and have glue in your insert. But basically everywhere that they got threads that you just tied on there, and now's when you'll want to turn your rod dryer on, and that's going to prevent, if you don't have the rod dryer or you don't have it constantly rotating, you'll have a big glob here at the bottom when you're done. And we don't want that, so we're going to turn this on. Turn it on and make sure that you check while it's rotating, check all the edges, and I'll add glue to any of the spots that I had missed. Kind of tidy it up a little bit. And now once that's dried overnight, what we can do is we can take this electrical tape off, and we should have a nice clean line of where that was, where that glue stops and where the threads stop. And just like that, you got it all fixed up. You're ready to go. This glue takes a lot longer to dry than, say, the rod tip glue. So I'll usually leave this overnight, and I'll leave my rod drying, my drying rack just running overnight. And you should be good to go in the morning to just grab the rod, take it out, go catch some big bass. Hopefully these tips helped you guys out, and if you want to see some more, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time.